Good day, everyone. This is Tekadet Bonadesha, and today we'll be discussing about the COLREG 72 Rule 14, which is the head-on situation under the course MTEC 102 for the prelim period. So let's start the discussion. Course outcome. The learner should be able to recognize the traffic separation scheme and determine appropriate actions to be taken in certain situations using the rules in COLREG 72. Learning outcome. At the end of this lesson, students should be able to understand the COLREG 72, Law 14 and its application. The importance of the topic. Students will be able to understand the COLREG 72, Rule 14 and its application to the maritime profession. Students will be able to determine appropriate actions to be taken in a certain situations. So here it is, COLREG 72, Rule 14, which is the head of situation. Part B, steering and sailing rules, Section 1, Subpart 2, conduct of vessels in sight of one another. Rule 14, head-on situation. Paragraph A. Unless otherwise agreed, when two power-driven vessels are meeting on reciprocal or nearly reciprocal courses so as to involve risks of collision, each shall alter her course to starboard so that each shall pass in the port side of the other. So for this rule, the situation is where both vessels are meeting in a reciprocal or nearly reciprocal courses like 180 degrees on each other. Like example, one is going north and one is going south, and they need to be approaching so as to involve in risk of collision. So if the risk of collision does not exist, you do need to apply this rule. And it says that each shall alter its course to starboard, so each shall pass in the port side of one another. It is indicating that both the vessels needs to take action, which means in this rule, both vessels are give-way vessels in the head-on situation, and there is no stand-on vessel. So to properly explain this situation or this rule, so we must first observe the illustration to understand its implications.
Happily heading due north 000. Then she sees the red vessel up ahead. Now the red vessel, they know that they're going due south 180, so these two are actually meeting on reciprocal courses. First thing they need to establish is whether risk of collision exists. To do that, they've got to continue to monitor for a little while. After a while, they've established the bearing between them is not changing, so they know risk of collision exists. They also know they're in sight of one another, they know they're both power-driven vessels, and they're meeting on reciprocal courses. Therefore, this is a head-on situation within the meaning of the rules. As per the first part of the rule, both vessels shall alter their course to starboard, so that each shall pass on the port side of the other. Once they've altered round to starboard, of course, the port side light is visible from both vessels. They can continue past each other until risk of collision is over and they're finally passed and clear, at which point they're free to alter back round to port and continue on their previous passage.
So to continue, we're going to discuss the paragraph B of the Rule 14. So such a situation shall be deemed to exist when a vessel sees the other head or nearly ahead, and by night she could see the mast headlights of the other in line or nearly in a line and or both side lights, and by day she observes the corresponding aspect of other vessel. So paragraph C. When a vessel is in any doubt as to whether such a situation exists, she shall assume that it does exist and act accordingly. So to simply emphasize the idea of paragraph B and C, so for paragraph B, it tells us that such assumptions must be driven by observing aspects of the ships through its mast headlights and sidelights. And for paragraph C, action must be made and executed to ensure the possibility of risk of collision and to have such preventive measures to avoid it.
So at night it would be complete darkness. You would see the mast headlight, which is the main mast, which is the after one, and then the foremast, which is the forward one, would be lower than the after one. You'd also see a port side light and a starboard side light. Seeing both side lights means that the ship is coming straight towards you. You can see straight on her bow. As she turns around slightly, you can see the masthead lights will gradually start to separate. The green side light, of course, will still be very visible, and for a time the port one will, but obviously it'll be getting dimmer as she's turning and covering it. As she turns yet further still, separation between the masthead lights will increase, the port side light will disappear, and only the starboard side light will be visible. This will carry on until she is right out on the beam, on the broadest possible aspect, and this will be the maximum separation between the two masthead lights. Of course, in this situation she will be going right from the left hand side of the screen to the right hand side of the screen. Of course, in the daytime you'd be seeing the corresponding aspect of the vessel, either head on or at intervals until she is right out on the beam.
So that is my presentation for today, and here are my references. I hope you have learned something from this presentation. Thank you.